Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Dan, and Carter. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Monday evening for our preview of Liverpool versus Lille in the UEFA Champions League tomorrow night at 8 p.m. British Standard Time kickoff. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams of videos so that you never miss out. If you're currently watching on Twitter with us at the moment, please make sure to jump over to our YouTube page. Very much appreciate a like and a subscription there too. It's free, so you're not missing out on anything. But what we will get into today is obviously our preview for tomorrow. But something that I think needs to be mentioned is the most clutch player in Premier League history since 1992, which is Darwin Núñez. And that is a stat that absolutely blew my mind. And if you want to, and as well, just another one that blew my mind, he has equaled, I think it's Robbie Fowler and Steven Gerrard on the most 90th minute winners in club history. Only Sadio Mane has more on 6, and he's on 5. But he also has the most away from home in Premier League history. So do with that information what you will. But to quote Lee Gunner, I guarantee if he missed all of them, Dan, what was Lee Gunner? What if we were quoting Lee Gunner? What would we be saying about Darwin?
Let's gonna be honest with you. We'd be deporting him, wouldn't we? Let's be honest. I think the words of Lee Gunner. Shout out. I'm sure you don't watch, but I watch you. Trust me. It would most certainly be his words on Marino. What are your thoughts on Mikel Marino? Deport him. Yeah. He did really well, didn't he? Unbelievable stat. The man is quite literally an enigma. His statistics say he is incredible and unbelievable. The eye test says otherwise, but he at times can do the most incredible things. Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, Brentford. He's getting up there with Origi for big moments, isn't he? Let's be honest. And massive points. These are big games. They are big results, and it's just testament to kind of, I suppose, the fact that he didn't start that game, and he came in there and he actually frustrated the life out of me when he came on, to be honest. I didn't think he was very good. And the time when he ballooned the ball over the bar from about 30 yards, where I quite literally nearly fell off my shoulders as the frustrations grew and grew. But he was the man in the moment. He was where he needed to be. And I don't think we're going to see many more games of Darwin Núñez, post this season. Let's be honest. I think he's going to be on his way out, but I'm just here to enjoy the moment, to be honest with you. And hopefully, has a couple more big moments. It's between now and the end of this season.
If we win the league, nobody really cares. Carter,
no.
You've been one of his advocates in that if we had certain wingers in certain places, that he would be the player that everybody envisions him to be. However, if you actually look at his numbers, so he's played the guts of, I think it's 75 and a half games worth of minutes. Of that 75 and a half games worth of minutes, he has 62 goal contributions. That's, on average, I think it works out at 0.82 goal contributions per 90. Erling Haaland is on 1.03 per 90 since he joined Man City. When you look at the overall numbers of it, like, the notion that Darwin Núñez is this absolute god-awful footballer that everybody seems to lump on just isn't true, is it?
It's not true. He definitely does get painted with a harsh brush, if that's the right word, because I think a lot of players who constantly try things and constantly make the effort and take risks. Like Trent, I always remember where even when we were good, it'd be like, Trent has lost the ball 38 times today. Well, it's like, yeah, because he's tried all these crosses, all these long balls. And it's easy to blame someone who tries and takes risks. Like the same would happen with Gerrard, same happens with Bruno Fernandes now. The same happens with people who constantly try things and take risks. They are going to get a lot of criticism when it doesn't come off. And I think even though he's finishing like below his XG normally, I think he still gets enough to where it isn't really an issue. I think if we did the whole of last season again, he would have been a lot closer. Like the Luton miss, that's just a mistake. Like, I don't think that's composure. Like, a one-on-one, I think, is composure. I just think that's come to him and he's just not caught the ball properly. But the one thing, if you saying the 90-minute winner thing, apparently Jude has 6 90th minute away winners for Madrid, or like winners for Madrid already, which I thought was a bit ridiculous. But I did then think, like, with that stat, you guys are a bit older than me, so I was thinking this when you said it. When like Robbie Fowler or Michael Owen were playing, what was the average extra time? Like, every game now feels like it's 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. Like, I actually can't remember. Like, it feels like a world away where it used to be like 4 minutes, 3 minutes. Like, now it's actually 10 minutes. You can kind of look at that stat and go, Nunes is playing, like, if he played the full game, he'd probably play added time after 90, what, an average of 6 or 7 minutes every game. So it does actually start to make sense. Like, he's probably played almost as many plus 90 minutes as like Daniel Sturridge did for us. Like, I just think it's quite like interesting how that shifted, and it kind of makes sense maybe why he's got that record.
Yeah, it is one. And so, Derek, I gave the numbers there. So he's just a super sub. He's not an 80 million pound first team starter, and I can't see that changing, which is a shame. So I'll pose you this question, Derek. So I said that Darwin Núñez averages in his time with us a 0.8 goal contributions per 90. Diogo Jota, who is considered the most clinical striker that we've had in quite some time. I want you, Derek, to give me a guess on what Diogo Jota averages per 90. And I think the answer might surprise you. But Dan, you're also one of those that it seems to be in the pro Núñez camp, so to speak, and that this notion that he's just a bad footballer is just completely misunderstood.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. I look at things differently because I went through my coaching badges in the US system. I went through all the training. I trained to be a referee. I have a different way of looking at how players play in a team. And I think Slot just says it best. He says, Darwin is a striker we have to use in a certain way, and we were not able yet to bring the best out of him this season. And that's obvious. You can look at the team, you can look at the stats that what Darwin Núñez has been doing has been to provide for Mo Salah. He's not really an enigma. He's Emil Heskey. That's what he is. Like, and I don't mean that as a slight. Like, if Carter, I don't know how old you are compared to me and Steve. Me, Steve, and Dan are around roughly the same age, but if you remember Emil Heskey back in like 2000 to 2002, he was unstoppable at times. Now, he didn't score a lot of goals, but he made Fowler better. He made Owen better. He was a core component of that Liverpool team from the early 2000s, getting them competitive with Wenger's Arsenal and Fergie's United during that time period. Now, they didn't win the league, obviously, with Houllier, but they were competitive. We have, obviously, the night in Alves, where Fowler goes through our goal. And that's kind of what Núñez is at the moment. He's not the 20 to 30 goal this season center forward. Will he ever be that for Liverpool? I don't think so. Will Slot want to move him on in the summer? Maybe. Again, I keep saying this to people that, we might get in a situation by the end of this year. Let's say Liverpool win the league, and let's just start the Champions League there because, we're still top of that. And that's what we're talking about today. You could end up in a situation where, he looks at the squad and he says, actually, Darwin, I'm going to keep you around. We'll sell Jota. We'll sell Diaz, or one of Jota and Diaz. Let's say Mo doesn't sign. Mo goes, you move on 2 forwards, one on a free, one selling. You just keep Darwin. Like, there's no reason. I feel like people in their heads think that you have to sell Darwin because you need X other player, like Isak or Benjamin Sesko, who's someone I really like, or Györges, who I know I get in arguments about Carter with all the time. There's not really a lot of 25-year-old strikers on the market with Núñez's profile. Marmoush isn't as combative. He's going to City, and he hasn't played yet, but I can tell you right now that he's essentially an Alvarez replacement at City. Who else are you really looking for in the market? Kai Havertz, maybe, but he's at Arsenal, and people maybe don't rate Arsenal as well. No, I would not take that. I don't think, and Edwards is not willing to take that now. Why would you take that now? Again, I think people have this idea that,
I think 70 million in the summer. That's the question.
No, not in the summer. No, why would you take 70 million in the summer? Why did you not take 80? Take 85.
I'd take 70 million because I think that's a really good price for a player.
You might take it, but I think Hughes and Edwards aren't going to take 70. I think they're going to take 80.
That's not dingo dollars. That's British pounds. That's proper money, by the way. That's real cash. That's the legitimate numbers. That's basically what we paid for him.
Trump's in office right now, Dan. I will have no slander on the American.
Yeah, who pays that? Exactly, Stephen. That's the right question. Who's paying for it? Because ultimately, unless it's Saudi money, other clubs across Europe don't have that kind of cash to spend. They just don't spend that kind of money. The one standout purchase of any club was Alvarez to Atletico Madrid. Otherwise, I can't think of any major purchase.
So that this is the only reason why I don't think they may do that deal unless they're getting 80, 85, 100, is that the instant you sell Nunez for 70 and you say, let's go look at a center forward, the price is going to start probably at 70 million euros, unless you're doing a situation where you already have the next player coming in. So you have them locked up and you know Nunez is going to go. And again, who's going to pay that money? You know, maybe Juventus, if they actually had money and they sell Velasco. PSG just spent all their money on Kvaratskhelia for 50, 60. You know, my thing is that taking 70 million for Darwin Nunez doesn't solve the problem that you want a center forward or a striker. It doesn't solve the problem that you might be losing 3 of your best players, arguably maybe 1 or 2. So, are you really solving any problems by doing this? That's my thing. Why I think they may not do it, because you could selling Jota for 40 makes sense because you can replace that with, say, like a Simas or like a younger center forward. Maybe bring up a Dads, maybe you sell on a Kumas. Like, there are more economical decisions that don't require a lot of time and effort than, say, moving Darwin for 70. That's just my opinion.
I don't know that. I don't know how that fits together though, Dan, because we've got Diogo Jota, who is made of Weetabix, but he is also the most prolific player that we have in the team when it comes to being in front of the goal. For goals and assists, he's for goals and assists per 90, he's only 0.1 of an XG less than Alexander Isak. So if we can keep him fit,
since he joined Liverpool and since Nunez joined Liverpool, Jota has played it per 90. Jota averages a goal or an assist. Jota averages 0.62 goal contributions per 90. Darwin averages 0.2 more per 90. So it's not even close.
And this is what I mean. And this is what I said last stream when I said, feelings don't care about facts. Everyone's feelings on Jota is that he's this prolific goal scorer.
He's really not.
He's very streaky. There was actually a time, I think he went 11 or 12 or 13 games on the bounce where he did not have a goal. He had
was it not 30 games in all comps, but he got 11 assists?
Yeah,
he had 11 assists, but no goals. And I mean, Harry Kane goes through that too. When forwards go through these periods, I mean, I think we have a warped perception because of Haaland's record or how Isak's been for Newcastle and Kylian Mbappe. That
the problem is with us is the last couple of years we've been spoiled with Bobby, Mane, and Salah, and that has skewed everybody's perception of it.
But Bobby wasn't prolific. And Mane wasn't either.
He was. The observation I was making this season alone is 0.93. Per 90, he's tracking gets a goal or an assist every game that he plays. He's now tracking a double what he was beforehand. My point that I was getting to is of course he is not always fit. He's not always available. But what I'm talking about is we probably have 2 nines that Slot really doesn't fancy. I don't think he fancies either of them for different reasons. I don't think Jota is available enough. Slot likes his players to be fit and available. He has a small team that he works with, and he's done very well so far with keeping them fit. I mean, the availability is incredible if we look at it, really, with where we were last season. Last season, it was 8-9 players out at this point through some form of injury, where this season we're looking at Joe Gomez, to be expected. Unfortunately, he is an injury-prone player, and Diogo Jota, who is also an injury-prone player, who's also injured. My thing is that if 70 million was to be put on the table in front of us, and that's hypothetical because at the moment no one's doing it. What we're talking is you have Diogo Jota, who, as you say, is probably worth about £40 million because he's an older player, he has an injury record and all that good stuff. But if you were to be offered that kind of cash, you don't necessarily have to go and replace him with an Alexander Isak. I don't think that's quite necessary. I'm pretty sure the laptop will go brr and it will find somebody who can go out there and find those numbers. It was Diogo Jota who was identified, and Wolves fans were laughing their heads off when we brought him into the team. Because we bought the wrong player, because Raul Jimenez was the one, and Diogo Jota was officially the better player out of the two when it comes to, being prolific in front of goal. So, yeah, for me, I don't think it's necessarily that we can just go out and buy one particular player. I think it frees up a lot of cash available if we do happen to have to replace Mo Salah as well. I mean, there's a big job potentially on the cards if he is to leave.
Yeah, this is something that I wanted to put in here. This is a lazy opinion. I really look. I'm not trying to have a go or be rude or anything about it, but that's such a lazy opinion. It's not. The ball goes in the back of the net, regardless of if you're the guy that passes it or you're the guy that scores it. Both have contributed in a very important way to that goal being made. If assists are padding, then what the fuck is Ryan Giggs or Kevin?
Don't give me those woke stats. G/AST. I want goals.
Not all assists are equal though. Like the Bush gets to Messi one where he then runs. Like
but no.
Well,
not all assists are equal. No, I completely agree.
It is still a stat, but I just want to say for Dan's thing, I wanted to ask you guys. You see, so if Salah went right, I think Núñez is the best player to build the attack around. I think he's the best available. And the way I would say this is okay, if you were Southampton right now and you could take any Liverpool attacker apart from Mo Salah to save you, I think you'd have to pick Darwin Núñez. I don't think you could pick any other attacker. I think you'd pick Darwin Núñez. And he's the player who, without any other players, who can just by himself, he's the one who you could actually say he can play at world-class level when he does. I think he's got the highest ceiling out of everyone. And I think until Mo Salah is staying, I don't see how you can let him go. Like, if we built the team around Núñez, on consistency, how many cutbacks does he get like the one he did against Brentford? I think so many are he's played in and he's shooting across the goalkeeper, which clearly isn't a consistent strength. I think if we change the way we played slightly, like Slot did for Jimenez, and we would just cutbacks, I feel like Núñez would be way more prolific. Like if you look in the run-up to the Copa America, so many of the goals, he was next to the 6-yard box, first time finish, goal.
He was Haaland.
That's what I mean. I don't feel like we played to him in that way.
So what happened last season then when we did that?
But I feel like some of them, he
did that a lot of the time.
But a lot of the time, though, he'd take 6, 7, 8 shots. But a lot of them, they'd be him running on and him shooting across the goalkeeper. And sometimes he was a bit streaky. But also, he did score some unbelievable ones. And I do think, honestly, it's a flick of a coin. Some of those chances weren't down to quality. They were just sometimes you run a bit cold. Sometimes that just happens.
Yeah, Dan, me and you went through all of his misses. And you agreed with me at the time that a lot of them were world-class saves, and it was the guts of a Rizzler paper away from him having another 10 goals. So
easily.
That's my point. So it's similarly to how we're going on about Marmoush this season, and that he's massively overperforming the XG. And that's more than likely the reason he may flop when he comes to the Premier League. But then you have the look at Darwin, who's getting those chances. Like this is, and people say that he wouldn't have been a Michael Edwards signing. I think he absolutely would have been, but he wouldn't have been bought for that price he was. The reason I say he would have been a Michael Edwards signing is because the whole mantra of Moneyball is he gets on base, he gets chances. Even if you can build 10 chances in a game, if he misses 8 but bags 2, all of a sudden you have 2 goals. Like that kind of way.
100%, I agree with you, Steve, because we said this, didn't we? Is that all it was taking was, these were hard lines last season in between him getting 15 to 18 goals to being 28 to 30 goals. We know that there was, there was fine margins, and I completely agree with you. My concern about it is that we have a player, and I think we need to take in his personality to an extent. I think we all know this. He's clearly an emotional player. He is not somebody who plays with some form of some people are just Alan Shearer, for example, he doesn't have the personality that allows it to not, to become out and to affect him. Darwin Núñez is clearly a very emotional person, and my concern is that a lot of what's happening to him is in his head. Is that when things don't go the way they should, when he has to think, when he's starting to think, when he's starting to spend so much time, we've seen it with Twitter, resiliency, and he's taking stuff off of Instagram. We've done all that stuff because he's a young guy and he has his own personality. My issue is that I think that on the pitch, I think he has all the ability. I think he has all the quality to do what we need him to do. My issue is I just don't think he has it in him, personality wise. And my concern is when it's not going well, we'll know it's not going well. When it's going great, I think it'll be brilliant, and we saw it yesterday. He had no time to think, and he scored 2 great goals. That was what we bought him for. That's what we all wanted him to come into. But I just think, unfortunately, he's not the guy. Not on the pitch, but in his head. I think if we could put Darwin Núñez and put somebody else's head on him, we're talking stupid numbers. Because physically he can do everything that's being asked of him. And just to go on to your point, he would absolutely probably be a Michael Edwards signing. You're absolutely right. Because of what he is, because of the numbers he was putting up. The issue was he didn't have enough information and data to warrant the price tag that was put on him. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't enough body of work for us to go out there and submit that kind of a bid. And we know that who made the bid. We know, that this wasn't a data-led signing. This was a case that this was someone who looked really good, scored loads of goals. And if you put him in my team, we can go on and do great things together. And unfortunately, it's not happened. And I think we're 3 seasons into this experiment and it's not working. And I just don't think going into season 4, and we keep thinking it's going to get better. Like, what do we think to success? And we're talking about changing the way that we do our thing. We're going to start cutting cutbacks. We're doing all sorts of difference with the front line. We're in fact actually right now.
What to measure as success, though, because
that's what success. What do we want from Darwin Núñez? Liverpool's for him. What do we want from our number 9? What do we want from them as what is a success?
For me, currently in the current state, I don't think our number 9 needs to be a focal point because, as you can see throughout the season so far, our left winger and our right winger are the ones that are contributing to the goals, and the forward, the 9, is very much like a second 10, and it just needs legs and needs to be an athlete. Now that could change and develop over time into that they do become the focal point. But it's one of those that if Salah was to go, you could end up having Chiesa as your right winger and Gakpo as your left winger, and then all of a sudden you've a fluid front 3 there in Gakpo, Chiesa and Núñez that can all interchange and go to either side and switch out and go everywhere. And immediately you have an absolutely terrifying front line, provided Chiesa stays fit. But that's just one thing there. And you have 3 guys all 6 foot and over who are rapid as well and can be dangerous in the box. But it depends really on what a measure of success is, because it depends on what Klopp is asking of him. And it seems that from the 9 position, even for Jota this season, and even Diaz, he's asking different of his 9 than most other teams are asking of their 9. If he was with Man City, if Núñez was with Man City, he would 100% be getting way more service to the tune of what Haaland is getting at the moment, because Haaland is just told, sit in the 6-yard box, we'll find you. And that's why he has ridiculous numbers as well at the same time. It's 2 halves of the same coin, unfortunately.
So 3 years ago, I was talking to my mate when we were playing Benfica, and I said, before City bought Haaland, I said City should actually try to buy Núñez instead of Haaland, because Núñez gives Pep everything he wants from his forward. He's essentially Gabriel Jesus, but 6'2" in Uruguay and not Brazilian, and he's more robust. And if you actually want that type of center forward, which is a bit more Pep-like, the person that's doing all the rough and tumble action, but not quite maybe your most technical player, that provides for your wingers. And he didn't buy him. He bought Haaland, and obviously City won back-to-back leagues, and then obviously won a Champions League. So, Pep Guardiola knows more about football than me, as much as some of us may hate to admit it. Pep actually knows what he's doing. But I would still even say today, you can look at that City team and you can see that what they lack is intensity. They don't have intensity in their front line that Darwin Núñez brings. And there's just so many forwards out there that, regardless of like what I said for Dan, it's like, if you're selling Darwin Núñez, who are you bringing in that's going to give you the same exact thing that has to transition to the Premier League? again, I'm saying that Slot can very much say, I want more goals from my striker in my 10. I completely agree. And that might lead to one of Jota Nunez going, one of Diaz going, with Salah as well. That's perfectly fine. And I agree with that. But what I will say is that until that moment comes, Darwin's here, he's effective, and things and attitudes may change in the summer. I would like to say that Jordan Henderson was out the door with Fulham under Rodgers, and that situation changed. If Origi doesn't get his ankle cracked by Funes Mori, maybe Liverpool look different with under Klopp's first year when we bring in Sadio Mane. There's so many sliding doors of footy that we just no player right now has a set path except for the ones that are probably not renewing. Is all I'm saying. No one has a set path right now if your name's not Tyler Morton.
Just wanted to touch on this before I let you go ahead, Dan. So what was Slot's 9 do for productivity in Holland? It was quite literally the opposite of what we have now. Slot's wingers were creators, not scorers, and his 9 was the scorer. Here it's the opposite. His wingers are the scorers, and his 9 or central players are the creators. So it's just flipped. So he's working with what he has. So he had Jimenez with Feyenoord, but then he also had Minte on one side. You had Pasiao on the other side. I believe there's another winger there that I'm probably forgetting. Carter will remind me of the name, I'm sure. That were the creators on the left and the right.
Quinton Timber, didn't he? He was in Thursday,
Timber was
wasn't he?
another one. They're just the creators on the outside.
Yeah.
Whereas,
however,
with us, whereas the inside, we create inside out rather than outside in, it seems.
So one player we should all be looking, though, that's going to be out of contract this year, and I think Kari knows who I'm talking about here, that you could bring in as a 9/10 player, Jonathan David, from Lille. And also their goalkeeper, who's the top goalkeeper in France, he's probably going to go to City, from what a lot of people in French football say. That so the team we're about to play, they have a lot of really talented players that we might be seeing links to. But I think anybody with Jonathan David being out of contract, you could see a situation where Liverpool say in June or July, we've agreed terms with Jonathan David on a free, and Jota or Nunez or Diaz if somebody gets sold on.
David has said, though, that he doesn't like Liverpool in the past. In an interview, he said, I like this team, I like this team, I like that team, but I don't like Liverpool. I don't like that kind of club.
Kevin De Bruyne is a lifelong Liverpool fan. That's all I'm going to say. Jamie Carragher's a lifelong Evertonian.
That changes everything.
But I think,
let's go, Carter.
I think David's only good enough to be the backup. I don't think he's good enough to lead the line. Like, I think you're signing someone to be backup, which I can understand, but I don't ever think that's a good way to do business. Like Dragusin, I think at Spurs, was signed to be a backup because he was never going to displace Romero or Van de Ven. And I think if you're ever signing someone, you should sign them. Even if let's say right now we kept Mo Salah and we wanted to sign in Mbeumo, and you think at least you may be looking, say, in a year and Mbeumo's going to overtake him, or every time you sign a player, you should be able to look and say, we're going to sign Baleba. Hopefully in 6 months' time, in a year time, he might overtake Gravenberch. If he doesn't overtake Gravenberch, then obviously Gravenberch is good enough to be the number 6 still. So I always think you should always be looking to sign someone who's good enough to break into the 11. I think that's the way it should always be done. It should never be like, we're just going to sign this guy to sit on the bench, because when your best player then gets injured, the drop from your starter to your backup is going to be so great.
See, there's one problem with that, Carter, and his name is Lenny Euro. Your argument, and I 100% agreed with you, that we should have gone for Lenny Euro, but to pay the money that United did for him is lunacy. And the reason I say it's lunacy is because both us and Real Madrid both said, we see you as a project. We want you to come in and develop behind some of the best centre-backs in the world with Rudiger and Van Dijk and Konate. And we want you to be our one for the future. And we're willing to throw 30 million euro on the table, and we're willing to bump up your wage with the option of it going up even more in the future. He said, no thanks. Man United are over there willing to give me a 2,000% increase on my salary and are willing to drop 70 million bands down on the table here. So I'm going to go to them.
130 grand a week for those performances. It's embarrassing.
On paper, your logic is completely sound, but then when you add the human element into it, when you have players like that and agents like that, it doesn't always work, unfortunately. So you have to which is why I think over the next number of years, we're going to see a massive amount of our academy talent come through, because we've invested so much money in it. And either they're going to come through and break in, or they're going to come through and be a squad player, or they're going to come through and be sold on. It'll be one of those three avenues. And we'll maybe make a signing of 1 or 2 per year to sort of flesh everything out as it goes forward on what we don't have coming through in the academy. Because if you think about it, coming through in the academy now, whether you think they'll make it or not is another thing. But we have Nalo, we have what's his name? We Trainioni, then we have Rio as well coming through on the left wing. Absolutely electric looking player, but he needs
Cade Gordon, Bendon, Doak.
Cade Gordon is another one. Ben Doak is another one. Lewis Kumas is another one. James Hands is another one. McConnell is another one.
I think
another one. Nalo, I mentioned Nalo. Then there's the fullbacks. There's Ramsey. There's Owen Beck. There's Chambers, and then you have what's his name?
That's £120 million in pure profit right there.
Probably, yeah. I was going to say Carter.
If
they're going to sell up a lot of them.
If you hit on even 10% of that, and then the rest of them are either squad players or sold on, your academy is pumping through talent straight away, and it's going to continue. And I think that's the way that Liverpool are going to go. Is they're going to start poaching talent from other academies and show that there is a pathway through for them, which I think is really what we're going to be going through going forward, especially with trying to buy these youngsters from overseas, because since Brexit came in, that can't happen anymore, because you nearly need to be buying them at 20 years old. That's going to cost you 60 million more. So you'll be getting these guys from the other academies, like we got Trainioni from Leicester, like we got Rio from Chelsea, who are still fuming over that. And I don't blame them. He is going to be quality, but he needs a lot of time in the oven before he's put into that first team, personally.
Yeah, no, it's all the comments on there. They are making me laugh. To be fair about the youth academy, this is something which, because we all love to be a big old family here at Liverpool, there's something that was quite an upsetting feature for this summer, but I think it's here to say, which is we're going to be saying goodbye to a lot of our youth talent quite quickly. I think the club's here to, if you aren't ready to be in the first team and it's time to move on, the price is there for you. And I think that's the right way to do things. At a club like Liverpool, is that the standards are here. Slot has set them so high. The players who were getting regular first time minutes, they're not even getting close to the team at the moment. And I don't think that's because he doesn't like them. I think it's anything personal. I just don't think they're hitting that standard where he needs them to be. Yeah, it's an interesting one you say about like players like Belaber and stuff like that. It's just so difficult to track exactly where they're going to end up, because they can start like a rocket at a young age, and then all of a sudden the regression can set in at 19, 20, 21 years of age, and they go from being, oh, but look at the potential, and we all look at the potential of a player and think, oh my God, they're going to be the next Luis Figo, and then they just turn out to be someone who's quite bang average because they just don't progress. Because we're looking at this player and thinking if they're good now, they're going to get better, and it's just not necessarily true. It's just not necessarily what's going to happen.
This is what I was thinking of as well. Figueroa was another one. He's going to be absolutely monstrous as well, and I can't wait for that. There's a lot of academy talent coming through, and it's going to continue to keep going. Sorry, Dan, I interrupted you. But,
no, you're fine. You're fine. I think.
Dan, I don't know how that'll be perceived.
Listen, I've already done the math. I think every youth player right now that's between the age of like 23 and 20, I think is most likely going to get sold. I think of McConnell, Badgettich, Doak. I think they're going to decide to keep one of them, and that might be Badgettich or McConnell. I think Doak is definitely probably going to get sold on. I could be wrong. He could come in and have a good
Harvey Elliott.
I actually think he might keep Harvey, and the only reason I think he might keep Harvey is because Harvey. We always think that Harvey might get sold because he doesn't fit, but he's always survived. He's always survived. He has always survived every manager and every system change. He's always been able to find a way back into the team. So I wouldn't count him out. Kumas is definitely going as well. But another team that actually has a really good youth system in the world is Lille in Ligue 1. We're currently third. And actually, if you want to buy youth talents in France, it's usually Lyon or Olympique Lyon are kind of overrated. That's why I don't think Checkary is. I think he's fine. I don't think he's that impressive.
Yeah, well, the more so the reason that I like him is price, availability, and the fact that he's 150 senior games under him. You know what he is, and if he's available for 20 million euro, like what do you lose with that, Dan? Is more the question that I'd have in relation to that.
I just don't think he's the right profile that he's looking for, because I think what Slot wants for number 10 is a number 10. He's essentially a forward. Like if you look at how JOTA's play as a 10, Dominic Soboslai right now is in the top 40 in the Premier League for XG, meaning he's essentially playing like a forward. And Checkary is not really a 10 as a forward. He's a 10 as like an Ozil, like someone who's more of a.
But do you not think that's kind of a profile would have helped us against somebody like Forest?
Maybe. I think Liverpool should have beat Forest with the players they had on the pitch. But you're not going to buy a player like Chekri who wants game times just for the 1 in 20 times you need him.
Yeah.
That's why you have a Harvey Elliott, or you trust this players and their ability to win. And again, I would like to say the only time Liverpool have played objectively bad and deserved to lose was Forest at home. It's the only time we've really played like that terrible that you could argue we would have done. Rennes, yeah, but Rennes are not as good. But Lille right now are definitely one of the better ones, and they're currently third in Ligue 1, ahead of Monaco, behind Marseille, and PSG are obviously running away with it. But they're actually doing very well in the Champions League too. So, I mean, this game of tomorrow is going to be very interesting because you can see some players that we're probably going to link to going forward a bit.
But do you not
Lille
think
haven't lost a game in their last 7, by the way?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you not think that Cherki can actually play on the wing, unlike Elliot? Which I kind of think, like, what was this guy's name that you said before? Paxal? I think he kind of might look and go, well, if Salah's going, I want to go back to the old way, and I want 2 sort of 10 wingers, opposed to wingers that are kind of like forwards. So he might then say, like Cherki makes more sense on the wing than Elliot. Xavi Simons makes more sense. People aren't going to like this. Eze makes more sense as a winger. Like, there's all these guys who could kind of be wingery 10s and would make a lot of sense. I think the fact is Elliot can only play one position. And as you said at the moment, the physical requirement, Elliot can't play as a number 9, like back to goal. Like, he can't do Trent and Salah's running. Like, I just don't see how he fits. And if Brighton are there, or if Dortmund are there, and you like Gittins, or you like Baleba, or you like João Pedro, or you like Estupiñán if we need a left back.
So Gittins makes more sense though. I think with Chekri, so you mentioned Chekri and Xavi Simons, they're just much better playing through the middle half, the middle third of the pitch. If you throw them out wide, I think you lose a lot of what they're good at. And Slot likes Slot at Feyenoord use very traditional wingers. I think if you're throwing a 10 on the wing, who may not have the pace to do it, I'm not saying Chekri would be like wasted, but I think you would not see the production that you see from, say, a Doak, who's a more traditional winger. And the only reason I think they sell Doak is because you might get 40 million for him, and that's a very much a massive profit turnaround. I would say look at the wingers that Lille have, because they have a very interesting selection of young forwards and wingers that you're going to see in the game. But I just don't know how Slot wants to evolve the side. Beyond that, I know what he wants for a 10 or forward. I know he wants at a 9. I don't know what he wants at left and right wing, except that he wants people who can press and have pace. And that's the only 2 things I know about Slot.
Just to answer this question from goal ratio, has Elliot played 9 for us? No, he would die. To put it as politely as I possibly can.
I love Harvey.
Yes.
I love Harvey.
I absolutely adore Harvey Elliott, but that man would die if he played number 9 for us.
A 9, oh my god. Well, he lacks the physicality to play in that role, because he doesn't have the physicality playing at 10. The only kind of response to that one is I don't think much. I mean, what we're talking about here about changing play styles, I don't think Slot's going to change much. He's been quite clear in every interview and every time he's spoken. He says, me and Jurgen play very similar. I don't think he feels as much to change. I think the things he has changed have been quite subtle and quite simple. He's just tuned us back. We've spoken about it. We're certainly not running as hard and running as much, anywhere near as much as what we were doing last season, which is why my fears, or other people's fears of minutes played by players, is certainly not as much of a concern to me at the moment, because that many minutes under a Jurgen Klopp side and that many minutes under Slot is very different on those players' bodies, and we're seeing it so far. So yeah, that was just one to my point. I don't think much is going to change. I think he's going to look to say, I need someone to replace X player, but
I don't think
to find it.
Speaking of change,
where the attack comes from, I don't think changing where the attack comes from is that massive of a change. Kurt, like he as I just said, like he flipped the script from when he was at Feyenoord to here, because he had the striker to be scoring the goals there with the creative wingers, and now he has the creative central players for the wingers to be absolutely monumental with Gakpo, Diaz, and Salah. So it's the same, but slightly different. So I think even reverting back to having his number 9 as the focal point, I don't think would cause much of a stress, because Gakpo is a fantastic creator from that left-hand side. And if you then had somebody that was dare I say, similar to like a Doak that's a right footer that can get down the byline, or even a Chiesa that's currently there that's brilliant on both feet. The Southampton 45 minutes that he played, he was cutting in on his left foot as if his natural foot was his left foot. And he can also go to the byline, or he can cut inside. So a dribbler like Chiesa is another option that could play there at that right wing.
It's the tools he's got available to himself, though, isn't it? He's come to Liverpool, and the tool set is no longer Toys R Us. We're now working with Nikita. We've now got the best tools available to him, and so he can now say, well, I don't need to do a lot of the things that I was doing when I had players who were inferior. Respect to those players, they are. Then not one of them comes close getting in our first team, and that's the end of that conversation. They're just not. You can walk into that Liverpool team and look around them and go, oh my God, look at these incredible players. Pretty much world class everywhere, if not just below that standard. So I think it's just using players to their best standards. I mean, Cody Gakpo is PSV Cody Gakpo. He was questionable for me as to where his future lay. Luis Diaz started very well. He's a little bit more Luis Diaz last season, in my opinion. Now I think that's gone a little bit under the radar. He's not quite.
Is that fair though, considering he's been playing the 9 quite a lot lately, though?
I think it's fair. I think it's fair because the opportunities are presenting themselves, and he's fluffing his lines a bit. I felt that he wasn't exactly great. I felt that the ball over the top by Konate against Brentford first half, and he just gets it completely wrong. That's not where he's playing on the pitch. That's his problem.
Speaking of change, though, do you think he's going to make a lot of changes for tomorrow? Because I could see maybe Kwanzaa coming in, maybe throws Robertson, Bradley, but I think we're going to see probably a pretty similar strong team.
I think it'll be semi-strong, to be honest. Right, well, that's what we do now. We'll go through our predicted lineups. I'll go first with my one. I would have Alisson in goal, because that man needs minutes because he's rusty as fuck still. I'd have Bradley at right back. I would have Kwanzaa. To be honest with you, I'm not worried about their attack. It's more us scoring goals against them that I'm concerned about. So I'd nearly put Endo and Kwanzaa in as centre backs. Maybe Enzo, or not Endo, Kwanzaa to start the first half with Virgil, and then Endo to come on in the second half to basically give Konate a rest, for lack of a better term. I'd bring Nalo with us as well if that was needed too. Left back, I'd have Randy Robertson. The 2 CDMs, I'd probably play maybe Morton and McAllister. The reason I play Morton and McAllister is because you can bring Gravenberch on at half time, or even the other way around. Start Gravenberch and pull him at half time. That kind of a way. It's more just who I can see there as a full squad. The 10, I'm going to say, is going to be Szoboszlai, because I'd like him to build his minutes more again. I'd like to see Chiesa start maybe at the right wing and just like Salah rest. Perfectly honest with you, Dan, you can disagree with me all you want, so you can shake your head all you want. I'd start Núñez up top because Diogo Jota's made of biscuits and he's out injured for another couple of weeks. And then I'd have either Diaz or Gakpo at the left wing. To be honest, it's quite hard to start picking the team. And Morton's Champions League minutes, Lille aren't a minnow. No, they're not a minnow, but Tyler Morton is a fantastically press-resistant player. And he is somebody that can put in a good shift when required. And it's not as if he's just some scrub either. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but he can do a job. And when you have somebody beside him, like a McAllister or a Gravenberch, that can cover any deficiencies that are there, it really helps quite a lot. I'd see as well, then you're all of a sudden now you're missing out on Curtis Jones as well. And you're like, where are you going to put him in this? Because I think he could do well in this, but he'd have to play in the pivot. I don't want him anywhere near the 10. That'd just be me personally. Carter, give me your starting 11 and how you see us lining up.
I think, predicting is actually really difficult because I could just probably pick on normal 11, probably minus Konate, because obviously he said he's playing on painkillers today, which isn't a great indictment of Joe Gomez and Kwanzaa. I know Gomez is not fit, but I'd probably say Alisson, Bradley, Kwanzaa, Van Dijk, Robertson, Gravenberch, McAllister, Elliott, Chiesa, Núñez, Diaz. I think that's what I'll go for. I just think Van Dijk, I'm so scared for Gravenberch. Like, this can't go on. Like, he's just going to be played and played and played and played It will be like, you know, when Pedri played like 70 games and then went to the Olympics and he just looked like, I don't want to say malnourished, but he looked like a malnourished version of Pedri. And it will just end up like that. Like Gravenberch is now going to play every game for Holland. He's going to play every game for us. And it's just not going to stop. So I really hope him and Virgil don't play. But I think they're both going to play. So yeah, that's my lineup. And Dan's 30 minutes.
Yeah. I think they'll play this game, but the game against PSV, I think that's a rubber match. Yeah. If we win this, we've secured top 2. And top 2 is, you get the same seeding regardless.
But then we have to win the last one to set the record. So we have to be the first team to win all 10.
Also 5 million. Also 5 million euros extra. I mean, every time they win as well.
Yeah, well, but it's PS. Fair enough with Lille. They're not a pushover team, but it's PSV in the final game. If our second 11 can't beat PSV, then I should be very worried about our second 11. To be perfectly honest with you, Dan, US Dan, who are you lining up as your starting 11? Are you just going full strength, going 3-0 up at halftime, and then pulling everybody off?
Well, I mean, what I would do is different from what I think Slot's going to do. I think what Slot's going to do is very much, same team that's probably going to play against Ipswich. I could see Kwanzaa coming in. I know Carter mentioned that, he's very much been backing Konate a lot, even though you could argue that Kwanzaa is the more fit center back. Though I think what Slot is doing, and I think he's entitled to do this, is that he's saying, like, who's my best available 11? I'm just going to go with that and rock that until the day I die. I think I hope Kwanzaa comes in for this just because I think he needs the minutes, and we're playing. It's 2 back-to-back home games, Lille and Ipswich. If it's Konate, people are going to say that this is an indictment on Kwanzaa's ability. I don't think it's that. I think it's Slot is very much trying to play everyone in rhythm, because if we win this, if we beat Ipswich at home, which we should do both, we'll, like you said, be pretty much guaranteed top 2 in the Champions League, and we'll be going into the weekend with essentially a 9-point gap on is it 9? No, it'll be 9 points. Yeah. 9-point gap on Arsenal on the same amount of games. And I think at that point you can kind of almost start believing in the 20th coming up as well. For midfield, it's going to be Grav. He has played Grav in every available fixture apart from, I think, the FA Cup. I think he's pretty much played the League Cups, even though I think he rotated about. Like, Slot's pretty much argued that upon this Grav, I shall build my Birch. And that's what he has said. That's a good pun I worked on as well. This is my Lisan Al Gaib. He is the truth, the tongue of the unknown. He is leading us to glory. I think it's going to be McAllister. I think it's Szoboszlai. I think it's Salah, Nunez, and I want to say Gakpo still, because he's been rolling. He's been rolling with that lineup recently. We know Jota's out. I think that I don't see Morton getting minutes. Endo probably will get minutes, potentially maybe at center back if it's Kwanzaa, or if it's Konate, I could see Endo getting some minutes. Robinson at left back, Allison in goal. Because, again, he's going to try and play them in rhythm from these next 2 home games. And let's say Nunez has a good, let's say 70, and you bring Chiesa on or Diaz on. If he gets a good 70, gets an assist or a goal, that's keeping him ticking over to Ipswich. And then when we play Ipswich, we just got to get Ipswich off the way. And that's why you can't really do this game without talking about Ipswich, because Slosh is going to go as strong as he possibly can for these next 2 games. And I don't expect any heavy rotation with this team until when is our next FA Cup game?
It's Plymouth.
It's Plymouth Argyle and 9th of
February.
February. Yeah, so and that we don't really have a lull in games until, I mean, God, we don't have a lull in games for a while now, actually. But once we kind of get to that other side, maybe we see some rotation here and there. But yeah, I think it's strong. I don't see Chiesa getting a start until maybe the Spurs game, potentially the semifinal. He might throw him into the Spurs game, but definitely probably Plymouth Argyle.
And Dan, in the top right, how are we fixed for your starting lineup?
Yeah, there's what I would do, and there's what Slot's more than likely to do. Is I think Slot will go strong. I think the team will be very strong to begin with. I think he'll be of the idea that you'll want to win the game, show the team respect. We looked at what we did against Girona. He played a full strength squad against what is effectively the weakest team that in that whole run of games that we would have played, and he went as strong as he possibly could. So I think it's likely we're going to see very minimal changes. So for me, I would say Allison, absolutely, for your reasons. CK, he's brilliant, but Allison just needs to get some more shots at him and to do what he can do. And we did that against Brentford really well. We got 6 shots against him, and none of which should have troubled him, and he did well with all of them. And sometimes you just need games like that, and Lille could be another one, which gives him the opportunity to do that one. Right back, Connor Bradley, because it just makes sense. It's just an opportunity to rotate Trent, to give him a bit of time on the bench, and allow Bradley some minutes to go out there and have a run and play 60, and then swap him out at the sort of predetermined time. Because Konate was doing the interview, he's going to start. I'm 99.9% sure that's what's happening. So I would say Kwanzaa, but he's definitely going to start Konate. Virgil van Dijk is absolutely going to start, and Andy Robertson should come in, because I just think the substitutes against Brentford tell us that's what's going to happen. Because of the swap that he did, and he's just going to rotate his left backs like he has done all season, because he doesn't trust either of them, which is what we know. Going into midfield, love it beats an opportunity to take Gravenberg out and put someone like Endo in, or Morton. I think it's funny how people say Morton was hilarious, because this is the same guy that Bayer Leverkusen wanted to buy, by the way. And he could well be playing Champions League minutes for Bayer Leverkusen in that same position. So to say Morton isn't such a wild shout, but I think it's going to be Gravenberg. I think Jones will come in for somebody, just because, again, just to do substitutions. I think he had barely any minutes. So I think Jones comes in for McAllister, maybe Szoboszlai. Can't tell you which one. You don't want him near the 10. I don't want him near the 10 either, but I think there could well be a possibility that's the case. I don't think Elliott starts, but I would like to see that happen. Can't see it happening. He hasn't done it so far at all this season, but I think he'll get minutes at some point during this game. Going up front, no one is brave enough to tell Mo Salah he's not starting a Champions League game with his goals as we had, and he hasn't scored in a while. So Mo Salah is starting, and he won't listen to any other conversation. I'd love to see Chiesa get minutes. It'd be an opportunity, but I think Dan's hit the nail on the head. For any start, it's Plymouth. I think we need to look at the 9th of February as the game where he's getting a start. But I think we're going to start seeing minutes from him. I would really hope. I thought he looked really good against Brentford. That was something I wanted to mention. Up front, Darwin Núñez, definitely, just because of the minutes, and also because he's in a good vein. You drive that train in, and then I would put Diaz out on the left hand side, because I just feel that he needs some time playing left wing. He's stopped rotating his left wingers and just keeps playing Gakpo, and it's kind of like that doesn't help anyone, because it tires Gakpo out effectively, and then also Luis Diaz doesn't get the opportunity to just play in the position I think he's best in. So I think I'd like us to go back to the idea of Diaz, Gakpo left wing, Salah forever on the right wing. Núñez is a 9, but obviously Jota would have been nice to have been available. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very strong team, but we'll see all 5 substitutes used, so we'll have a good swap round, hopefully, once the game's done and dusted.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree at all. Just one last comment before we finish up. The league is the priority. We've already secured promotion to the round of 16. Why play the likes of Salah, Graves, obviously McAllister, Konate? I hope that Slot isn't being pressured to go real strong. He's not being pressured to go strong about anything. While we've secured the round of 16, seeding matters.
Yep.
And if you finish first or second, you get the same seeding. It doesn't matter. If you start finishing third, fourth, fifth, and so on, you get harder fixtures.
Also, there's no player in that team that's saying, yeah, don't play me in the Champions League. I don't want to play. And there's also the 5 million extra you win for each round as well. So there is both a long-term incentive, an immediate incentive, and a middle third incentive as well, because you can argue the contracts. It's like, hey, we won all these games. You should stay on this team. You can make the argument to say Hughes and saying, hey, I won you the 30 million euros that we have in this kitty. I expect, whatever, how they want to go as well. And even in the long term, you can show all the players, hey, when we're in the Champions League, I'm going to back you. It doesn't matter what type of game it is. And I feel like we all because we all think about the 21-22 season, which is a very unique season, and how Klopp heavily rotated. That's not normally what Klopp and Slot have done. And again, this is Slot's first season. So he is thinking in this is his first year trying to do Premier League, Champions League, League Cup, and FA Cup. So how he does this season may not be how he does in the future seasons. Klopp was the same way. He didn't rotate, and then eventually he was rotating a lot more. So, like I said, people say he's going to be pressured. Slot's saying, I'm just trying to win the game. And the more wins Slot gets, the better. And I don't think anybody should. I know we're all thinking about Midtjylland and like Jota getting injured and all that as well. you back the team, you back the players, like no matter what game it is, and you always go out and try to win. Remember the one time that a coach did not try to win the Champions League was Brendan Rodgers at Real Madrid. Everybody wanted him to get sacked. So,
Okay, we are going to finish it there, guys. I want to thank everybody for coming. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. If you're currently watching over on Twitter, please make sure to jump over to our YouTube page and leave a like and subscribe while you're there. We'd very much appreciate it. We look forward to the game tomorrow, where we hope to see Liverpool starting off a week, should I say, with a victory before then going to Ipswich at the weekend. Thank you all so much for joining us. For myself, Dan, and Carter, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful Monday evening, and we'll see you all again tomorrow for our post-game stream after the game. Okay? Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon.